The Battle of the Trench, also known as Ghazwat al-Khandaq or the Battle of Azab, holds a very special place in the history of Islam because it was in this battle that the courage, faith and strength of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib became manifest in such a way that the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, declared, "One blow from Ali in the Battle of the Trench is better than the worship of the two worlds." This one statement alone captures the greatness of Ali, the importance of the battle and the reality of sacrifice and sincerity in the path of Allah. To understand the depth of this saying and its meaning, it is important to examine the background of the battle, the dangers faced by Muslims, the role played by Imam Ali, and the immense weight of the Prophet's words. When the Quraysh of Makkah and their allies realized that the Muslims were growing stronger in Medina and that Islam was spreading rapidly, they decided to unite and destroy the Muslim community completely. They gathered a massive army of over 10,000 soldiers from Quraysh, Jews and various tribes, and marched toward Medina. The Muslims were few in number, not more than 3,000, and Medina was an open city with no natural fortifications. The danger was immense and the situation seemed almost hopeless. It was then that Salman the Persian suggested digging a trench around Medina to block enemy entry. The idea was unfamiliar to the Arabs, but the Prophet, peace be upon him, accepted it, and the Muslims worked day and night to dig the trench. When the enemy reached Medina, they were shocked to see the trench. It was something they had never encountered in warfare. The trench prevented the enemy cavalry from entering and forced them to stay outside for weeks in frustration. However, there were moments of great danger when the enemy tried to cross the trench at narrow points. Among the leaders of the Quraysh army was Amr ibn Abd Wudd, a warrior known for his unmatched strength, bravery and fearlessness. The Arabs considered him equal to a whole battalion in strength and skill. He crossed the trench with a few others and challenged the Muslims to single combat. His challenge shook the companions because everyone knew his reputation. The Prophet asked who would rise to face him. Imam Ali stood up and requested permission. The Prophet initially told him to sit because Amr was no ordinary warrior. He repeated his challenge and again Imam Ali rose. The Prophet again asked him to wait. When Amr mocked the Muslims again, Imam Ali stood for the third time and the Prophet granted him permission to go fight. He tied the Prophet's turban on his head and gave him his sword Dulfikar. The Prophet raised his hands in prayer and said, "O Allah, help Ali, for he is the most devoted of your servants and the bravest of your men." Imam Ali advanced with complete faith in Allah. When Amr saw him, he mocked and said, "O nephew of my brother, I do not wish to kill you." Ali replied, "But I wish to kill you." Amr laughed and dismounted from his horse to fight Ali. Amr was huge, strong and armored, yet Ali did not hesitate. The clash was intense. The sound of their swords echoed across the battlefield. Dust rose as they exchanged blows. Finally Imam Ali struck him with such force that he fell to the ground. Ali mounted him and ended his life with one decisive strike. The enemy was shocked. Their greatest warrior had been defeated by the young cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet. The Muslims shouted Allahu Akbar in joy and the Quraysh were filled with fear. It was in this moment that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, declared, "One blow from Ali in the Battle of the Trench is better than the worship of the two worlds." This statement is not merely praise but a deep truth. Worship without sincerity, without sacrifice, without true submission to Allah is empty, but the one act of Ali was filled with absolute sincerity, courage, faith and devotion. It was not only a physical strike but a defense of Islam itself. If Amr had succeeded, the enemy could have entered Medina, massacred the Muslims and ended the mission of Islam forever. Ali's single act preserved the religion and protected the Prophet and the believers, hence its value outweighed the worship of all beings. The phrase worship of the two worlds has profound meaning. It refers to all the prayers, fasting, charity and rituals of both humans and jinn across time and space. The Prophet declared that Ali's single blow surpassed it all. Why? Because worship is valuable only when it leads to protecting and strengthening the truth. When faith is threatened, when Islam itself is in danger, defending it becomes the greatest form of worship. Ali's blow was not for himself, not for pride, not for fame. It was purely for Allah and His Messenger. His sincerity elevated the act to the highest level. The companions witnessed this scene with awe. Some wept with joy, some were amazed at the Prophet's words, but all recognized that Ali was no ordinary man. He was the gate of knowledge, the lion of Allah, the sword of Islam. His courage in the trench ensured that the Muslims survived that day. The enemy lost morale and after weeks of frustration they withdrew defeated without achieving their aim. Medina was saved, Islam was preserved, and the Muslims learned that courage combined with faith can defeat even the greatest of armies. To understand why this statement of the Prophet is so weighty, one must reflect on the nature of worship. Worship is usually understood as rituals, prayers and devotion, but Islam teaches that true worship is submission to Allah in all aspects of life, sacrificing for truth, standing firm in battle, defending the weak, resisting oppression and giving one's life for Allah's cause are the highest forms of worship. Imam Ali embodied all of this in that one moment. His action was worship in its purest form, worship through courage, sincerity and complete trust in Allah. Imam Hakim narrates this tradition in al-Mustadrak, and scholars throughout history have recognized its authenticity and greatness. It has been quoted in works of hadith history and spirituality. The words of the Prophet are timeless, reminding every believer that sincerity and sacrifice in defense of Islam outweigh thousands of empty rituals. This is not to belittle prayer or fasting, but to elevate the concept of real worship. Worship must be alive, it must defend truth, protect the Prophet's mission, and spread justice. That is what Ali demonstrated in the Battle of the Trench. The blow of Ali was not just a strike of a sword, it was the strike of faith against disbelief, of courage against arrogance, of truth against falsehood. It was a moment where the fate of Islam was hanging in balance. If Amr had broken through, others would have followed and the city would have been invaded, but by defeating him, Ali closed the door on the enemy. His strike was a shield for Islam. This is why the Prophet valued it above all worship, because worship disconnected from sacrifice does not protect truth, but Ali's strike was worship that preserved all future worship for humanity. This lesson remains relevant today. Every believer faces moments of trench in their life, when truth is under attack, when faith is tested, when oppression rises. Then silence is not enough. Ritual prayers alone are not enough. In those moments, action is required, action with sincerity, faith, and sacrifice. That action is worship greater than thousands of prostrations, because it protects the very meaning of prostration. Ali teaches us that true worship is not limited to the prayer mat, it includes the battlefield of life, the defense of justice, and the courage to stand alone when others are afraid. The Battle of the Trench also shows the relationship between the Prophet and Ali. The Prophet trusted him above all. He gave him his own sword, his turban, and his prayer. Ali was the one chosen for the most dangerous task. This shows his rank, his closeness to the Prophet, and his unique role in Islam. The declaration of the Prophet is also a testimony of Ali's status in the sight of Allah. Many companions had worshipped, many had served, but only Ali's blow was described as greater than the worship of the two worlds. This elevates him as a model of sincerity and sacrifice. The enemies themselves admitted the greatness of Ali after the battle. Many said that if Amr was defeated, then no one could stand against Ali. His name spread as the Lion of Allah. His strike was remembered not just for its force but for its faith. The Quraysh could not forget the humiliation of their greatest warrior falling to the young Muslim. This fear weakened their resolve and made them realize that Islam could not be defeated so easily. For generations, scholars, poets, and thinkers have reflected on this hadith. They have written books explaining its meaning. They have composed verses praising Ali's courage. They have narrated it in gatherings to inspire faith and sacrifice. This one statement continues to shine like a jewel in the history of Islam, reminding believers that a single act of sincerity outweighs endless rituals without heart. The blow of Ali is not just history, it is a living lesson. Whenever a believer stands against falsehood, defends the oppressed, protects the faith with sincerity and courage, they are following the path of Ali. Their act becomes worship greater than rituals. Their sacrifice is written with gold in the record of deeds. Ali's life shows that worship is not only bowing but also rising, standing, fighting, and sacrificing in the way of Allah. Thus the Battle of the Trench remains a turning point in Islamic history. It was the day Islam was saved from destruction. It was the day Ali's courage shone like the sun. It was the day the Prophet declared a truth that would inspire generations. One blow from Ali is better than the worship of the two worlds. These words echo through time, teaching us the essence of worship, the value of sincerity, and the power of sacrifice. May Allah grant us the ability to embody even a fraction of the sincerity, courage, and devotion of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the beloved of the Prophet, the Lion of Allah, the defender of Islam.